This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. And for today's show, we're going to be talking Week 14 in the NFL, talk about the 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock games on Monday on Sunday that were on Sunday for this first segment. After that, we'll talk some Sunday Night Football. We'll talk some Monday Night Football. How about that upset by the Dolphins right there, beating the Patriots yesterday? We'll talk a lot about that game right there. And then we'll talk about the NBA games from Monday night. I think the Celtics ended up losing to the Bulls yesterday too. And I don't think Kyrie or Marcus Morris played in that game. But nonetheless, I mean, the Bulls pulled out a big win against them. So yeah, we'll talk about that later on in the show. And then pretty much talk about anything else going on in the sports world. So let's just get into it right now. First game up, we got the Minnesota Vikings. They headed in Carolina, and Minnesota lost that one. Carolina won that one 31-24. Case Keenum had 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, completed 27 out of his 44 passing attempts. Jerick McKinnon had 7 carries, 46 yards. Latavius Murray, 9 carries, 14 yards. Not a good game on the ground for either of those two. Adam Thielen, 6 receptions, 105 yards and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 6 receptions, 64 yards, no touchdown. And Kyle Rudolph, 3 receptions, 41 yards and a touchdown. As for Carolina, you had Cam Newton, who threw for 137 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, completed 13 out of his 25 passes. Jonathan Stewart, 16 carries, 103 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cam Newton also took off 11 times and had 70 yards rushing. And Devin Funchess, he had 3 receptions, 59 yards, and caught Cam Newton's only touchdown pass. As for the Indianapolis Colts and Buffalo Bills, this was quite the snow game right here. Pretty much it was just like the Army-Navy game. It's pretty much just run the ball. Oop, they passed it. Run the ball. Jacoby Brissett, the Buffalo actually won this one 13-7 in overtime. Jacoby Brissett completed 11 out of 22 passes, only had 69 yards, 1 touchdown. Frank Gore, the man, what do I call it usually? Oh yeah, what is it? I can't remember what I call him sometimes, but he had 36 carries, 130 yards, no touchdowns. Marlon Mack, 2 receptions, 21 yards. And T.Y. Hilton had 2 receptions for 20 yards also. I believe Jack Doyle, the tight end from Indianapolis, had 2 receptions, 4 yards, and a touchdown right there. So that helped me out in my fantasy league. Nathan Peterman from Buffalo had completed 5 out of his 10 passes, 57 yards, 1 touchdown. Joe Webb came in, 2 of 6, 35 yards, 1 interception. LaShawn McCoy, 32 carries, 156 yards, and a touchdown. And Kelvin Benjamin had 3 receptions, 38 yards, and a touchdown also. Once again, Buffalo won that one 13-7, and Buffalo is now in that 6th spot for the wild card. So maybe they're giving the fans a little bit of hope. Maybe they'll be able to pull it out and make the playoffs. We'll see. As for Chicago, they went into Green Bay. They went into Cincinnati and beat up on the Bengals. Chicago won that one 33-7. Mitch Trubisky, 25 of 32, throwing the ball, 271 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Jordan Howard had a huge game, 23 carries, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tariq Cohen, 12 carries, 80 yards, and Kendall Wright had 10 receptions for 107 yards. As for the Bengals, Andy Dalton completed 14 out of his 29 passes, 141 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Giovanni Bernard, 11 carries, 62 yards. Also had 6 receptions for 68 yards. A.J. Green, 5 receptions for 64 yards. And Brandon LaFell had the only touchdown of the game, 3 receptions, 24 yards, and 1 touchdown. As for Green Bay, they went into Cleveland, and Cleveland almost pulled out the win. They were so close. They were up by like 21-7, I think it was, or 21-14. Either way, they were up late in the game, and they just pretty much realized that they were the Cleveland Browns and gave that one up. Brett Hundley, they lost that one 27-21, but Brett Hundley, he had 265 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, took off with the ball 7 times, had 31 yards because of that. Jamal Williams, 15 carries, 49 yards, 1 touchdown. Also had 7 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. And Devontae Adams had 10 receptions, 84 yards for 2 touchdowns. As for the Browns, Deshaun Kaiser completed 20 out of his 28 passes, had 214 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, took off twice, got 7 yards out of that. Isaiah Crowell, 19 carries, 121 yards, no touchdowns. Josh Gordon, 3 receptions, 69 yards and a touchdown. Corey Coleman, 5 receptions, 62 yards and a touchdown. And Duke Johnson, 4 receptions, 41 yards and a touchdown. But once again, Cleveland came up short. I'm not sure if this team's going to win a game for the rest of win a game at all this season. I mean, let me see if I can pull up real quick. Who do they have up next? But yeah, I mean, I feel like this was the game right here where they needed to pull out their win, to get their only win of the season. I mean, because going forward, I mean, they can't be playing anyone really too weak or anything like that. At least to the point where they have a chance. I think they got Baltimore once. Here, I got it up right here. Let me see. Yeah, they got Baltimore, the Bears, and the Steelers. The Cleveland Browns, unless they can beat the Bears, they're gonna go 0-16. And I don't understand how Hugh Jackson would keep his job if this team went 0-16. I feel like you go 0-16 and that's like a death sentence pretty much. I mean, if you're an NFL coach and you lead your team to an 0-16 season, I mean, what are we really doing here? I mean, I understand the whole long-term plan, but 1 win really out of what? 32 games, I'm guessing that so they got 1 win out of the 32 games in these past 2 seasons. If they lose out, which I think they will, I mean, against Baltimore next week, they really have no chance. I mean, that game's at home, so that's pretty much the only thing they have going for them, but we'll see right there. Against Chicago, they're playing in Chicago, so that one's going to be a bit tougher. Mitch Trubisky's looking good. Let's see. Jordan Howard's running good. I mean, the defense is playing well for Chicago, too, so, I mean, that's going to be a tough one right there, especially since Cleveland's going to be on the road. And then against Pittsburgh, I mean, the only chance that they have there is if Pittsburgh sits Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell, but I'm sure they're going to be competed for that number 1 seed along with the Patriots, so I don't really see Pittsburgh benching their players week 17, so you know what? The Browns are probably going to go 0-16. There's no reason for me to pick them. I mean, I picked them against the Chargers to win, but obviously they lost 19-10, and then I picked them against the Packers again this week, but they lost that one 27-21. I felt like if they were going to get a win, it had to be out of those 2 games right there, because I understand that the Chicago Bears aren't a good team, and they're not as good as the Chargers or Packers, but I still feel like Cleveland on the road against them is really not going to help you out. So yeah, bank on the Cleveland Browns going 0-16. If you're going to put money on that, I'd put money on that right there. But yeah, like I said, they're just going to have to figure it out. But as for this next game, you had the San Francisco 49ers. They headed into Houston. San Francisco won that one 26-16. Jimmy Garoppolo had a better game, way better game than last week. I mean, last week he had 287 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. This week he completed 20 out of his 33 passing attempts, 334 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Carlos Hyde, 14 carries, 78 yards, 1 touchdown, and Marquise Goodwin had a great game too. 6 receptions, 106 yards. Garrett Selleck, 2 receptions, 67 yards, and a touchdown. As for the Houston Texans, TJ Yates ended up coming in for Tom Savage. I mean, Tom Savage got hit, and it looked like his head hit the field turf pretty hard, and then it looked like Savage was having a seizure. I mean, I can't really say for sure whether or not it was a seizure, because obviously I'm not a doctor. I'm just a guy with a podcast, but yeah, I mean, the guy's hands and pretty much his whole body looked like it went into shock and looked like his hands were cramping up. So I mean, is that a seizure? Is that what it takes to have a seizure? I'm not sure, but either way, the guy came out, and then a few plays after that, he comes back in, and I'm just like, Houston, what are you doing? The guy pretty much had no control over his body a few moments ago, and you're already throwing him out there. But either way, I think he left the game after that one more time. He went 6 of 12, 63 yards, didn't throw for any touchdowns or any interceptions before he went out. TJ Yates came in, 14 completions, 26 attempts, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lamar Miller, 17 carries, 53 yards. TJ Yates also took off of the ball 3 times, had 31 yards out of that. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe TJ Yates is going to be a starter for the rest of the season. I just put him out there. I mean, Tom Savage shouldn't even step on a field until his head's all good. DeAndre Hopkins had 11 receptions, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Will Fuller continues to be lost without Deshaun Watson. The guy only had 3 receptions for 26 yards. Will Fuller, I mean, I know coming out of Notre Dame, everyone thought, oh yeah, he's going to be a great receiver. He's really fast. Yeah, that's pretty much it. He's just fast. The guy has no hands. He doesn't really run his routes too well. I mean, if you look, the only touchdowns he really scored with Deshaun Watson were all deep routes. So, I mean, the guy's a one-trick pony. Sorry to say it, but it's true. But going back to San Francisco, I mean, this whole Jimmy Garoppolo thing, it's looked good the last couple of weeks. The guy's out there, he looks comfortable, and he's making good throws. I mean, eventually you're going to want him to get those touchdown stats up and pretty much stop throwing an interception each game. But like I said, it's early. It's only been 2 games, so you can't really knock him for that right now. And it's looking like he's going to end up being the quarterback going forward. I mean, why else would you give your early second-round pickup for him unless you think that that's going to be the guy going forward? And I'm really curious as to see what San Francisco does in the draft, because obviously if they still have that quarterback, unless they like Saquon Barkley a lot, I mean, if I'm then, I'm just trading back maybe to around number 10, around that spot, and picking up a lot more picks just to build that team, because, I mean, even with Jimmy Garoppolo out there, they still got a lot more they need to build up. So we'll see what their plan is in the offseason. Let's see. Next game, we got the Oakland Raiders heading into Kansas City. Oakland, most disappointing team of the season so far, and it's not even really up for debate. I mean, actually, that's going to be a segment we're going to talk about later on in the show. Actually, it might be, but Oakland's just been really disappointing. I mean, they got next year in Oakland, and then they're done after that. They're going to head off to Vegas, and it just really hasn't worked out for them at all this season. They're 6-7, a game back of the wild card, but I mean, they're not really playing like a team who's got much of a chance. They're just not playing good football at all. But that game they lost 26-15. The Chiefs won that one. Derek Carr completed 24 out of his 41 passes, had 211 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The guy just hasn't looked good either, Derek Carr, talking about him. But yeah, he hasn't looked good. I mean, when he fractured his back, they brought him back after missing only 1 week, and I feel like that was way too fast to rush him back. And like, I understand the whole, we got to win in Oakland type of deal. We got to win a Super Bowl, bring a Super Bowl to Oakland before we leave to Vegas. I get that and all. It's pretty cool, but I mean, eventually you're going to be the Las Vegas Raiders, so you need to prepare and build for the Las Vegas Raiders future, okay? Bringing in Derek Carr after 1 week, I mean, obviously, like I said, you want to win something for the Oakland Raiders, but I mean, if it's going to hurt Derek Carr and going forward and in the future, then just keep him out and let that back heal up, because obviously something's not right. He hasn't looked good at all this season, but Marshawn Lynch had 7 carries, 61 yards, 1 touchdown. Jared Cook, 5 receptions, 75 yards and a touchdown. Michael Crabtree, 7 receptions for 60 yards and no touchdowns. As for Kansas City, Alex Smith came back down to earth after that 399-yard, 4-touchdown performance. He came back to the old Alex Smith, 20 of 34 throwing the ball, 268 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Kareem Hunt finally got the ball more than 10 times. He had 25 carries, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. Charkandrick Rest had 3 carries, 25 yards, and a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, 4 receptions, 75 yards. And Travis Kelce had 7 receptions for 74 yards. Once again, Kansas City won that one 26-15. Oakland's pretty much out of everything. I don't think they're going to be able to make the wild card. They're just not a good team right now. And as for Kansas City, I'm still going to hold out on still going to pick the Chargers to win that division, because I still don't like Kansas City as it is. I mean, if they do make the playoffs somehow, I mean, they're just going to lose in the first round. So hopefully the Chargers make that playoff spot so they can do more with it. As for Detroit, they headed into Tampa Bay. Detroit won that one 24-21. Tampa Bay's disappointing season continues. The Oakland Raiders, everyone was thinking of them going to the AFC Championship, possibly Super Bowl. Tampa Bay, we all thought they'd be a good team, make the playoffs, but they're not the most disappointing team of the season. I'm going to stick with Oakland in that one. But yeah, once again, Detroit won that one 24-21. Matt Stafford completed 36 out of his 44 passes, 381 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Theo Riddick, 10 carries, 29 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eric Ebron, 10 receptions, 94 yards, no touchdowns. Golden Tate, 8 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Jameis Winston completed 26 out of his 38 passes, 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Peyton Barber, 12 carries, 58 yards, no touchdowns. Doug Martin, 10 carries, 26 yards, and a touchdown. Let's see, O.J. Howard had 4 receptions for 54 yards and a touchdown. And Deshaun Jackson, only 4 receptions for 41 yards. And Mike Evans continues to disappoint, only 2 receptions for 25 yards. Maybe he needs Johnny Manziel back there to make him play good. Let's see. Dallas faced off with the Giants. Dallas won that one 30-10. I really don't know why I picked the Giants. I should have just got away from the whole sentimental, Eli's starting, they're going to win and play good for him, because that's obviously not what happened. But Dak Prescott actually had a good game. Completed 20 out of his 30 passes, 332 yards, 3 touchdowns. Still don't think he's that great of a quarterback, but I guess time will tell. Alfred Morris, 19 carries, 62 yards. Rod Smith, 6 carries, 47 yards and a touchdown. Also had 5 receptions for 113 yards and a touchdown. And Des Bryant, only 3 catches, but made the most of them, 73 yards and a touchdown. As for the New York Giants, you had Eli Manning coming in, starting his new streak. Completed 31 out of his 46 passes, 228 yards, 1 touchdown, and Eli Manning's got to get those interceptions out there. He threw 2 interceptions. Wayne Gallman, 12 carries, 59 yards. Orleans Darkwood, 10 carries, 29 yards. Evan Ingram, 4 receptions for 54 yards, and Wayne Gallman also had 7 receptions for 40 yards too. Let's see, Tennessee headed into Arizona. And I was thinking, too, this game finished 12-7 with Arizona winning. I mean, imagine living in Arizona and being not a fan of either of these teams, but this is the only game that's on TV, so you have to sit through it, or even living in Tennessee and having the same situation. Like, imagine having, not having the Sunday ticket, and you got to sit through this entire game because it's the only football on. If I was in that position, I just turn it over to ESPN and watch bowling because I feel like that'd be way more entertaining than this game was. Marcus Mariota had 16 completions out of 31 attempts, 151 yards, 2 picks, no touchdowns. Pretty much been how he's been all season. DeMarco Murray 11 carries, 34 yards. Derrick Henry 8 carries, 20 yards, 1 touchdown. Eric Decker 3 receptions for 56 yards, and Delaney Walker had 5 receptions for 42 yards. As for Arizona, Blaine Gabbert 17 of 26, 178 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, got sacked 8 times. Kerwin Williams 20 carries, 73 yards with Adrian Peterson not playing, and Larry Fitzgerald had 5 receptions for 44 yards. Jermaine Gresham 12 receptions for 27 yards. Man, this game was brutal. Let's see, the New York Jets headed into Denver. Denver blew them out 23-zip. Josh McCown 6 of 12, 46 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick, broke his hand, out for the season. Bryce Petty 2 of 9 throwing the ball, 14 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Jets aren't winning the game for the rest of the season, obviously. Bilal Powell 13 carries, 35 yards. Matt Forte 6 carries, 13 yards. Also had 2 receptions for 21 yards, and Robbie Anderson had a poor game, only 3 receptions for 27 yards. Trevor Siemian, look who didn't throw an interception in this one. He had 200 yards, 1 touchdown. Like I said, no picks. C.J. Anderson, 22 carries for 48 yards. Devontae Booker, 9 carries, 22 yards. Demaryius Thomas, 8 receptions for 93 yards and a touchdown. C.J. Anderson also had 2 receptions for 25 yards. As for the Washington Redskins, they headed into LA, faced off with the Chargers. The Chargers won that one 30-13. Kirk Cousins, 151 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Perine had 17 carries for 45 yards. Josh Dotson, 3 receptions, 34 yards. And Jamison Crowder had the same stat line as Dotson. As for the Chargers, Phil Rivers had 319 yards, 2 touchdowns. Melvin Gordon, 22 carries, 78 yards and a touchdown. Tyrell Williams, 4 receptions, 132 yards, 1 touchdown. Keenan Allen, 6 receptions, 111 yards, no touchdowns. Hunter Henry had 4 receptions for 50 yards and a touchdown right there. As for Seattle, they headed into Jacksonville, and look who came out with the big win. The Jacksonville Jaguars won that one 30-24. Blake Bortles had 268 yards, 2 touchdowns. Leonard Fournette, 24 carries, 101 yards, 1 touchdown. D.D. Westbrook, 5 receptions, 81 yards, 1 touchdown, and Marquise Lee had 5 catches for 65 yards. As for Seattle, Russell Wilson, 3 touchdowns, 271 yards, but did throw 3 picks. He took off with the ball 5 times, had 50 rushing yards. Mike Davis was the Seattle's running back of choice for this game. 15 carries, 66 yards. Tyler Lockett, 4 receptions, 90 yards, 1 touchdown. Doug Baldwin, 3 receptions, 78 yards, 1 touchdown. And Paul Richardson, he's only going to catch 2 to 3 balls a game, but he's going to do good with it. He had 3 receptions, 72 yards, and a touchdown right there. Let's see. We'll talk about the Sunday night and Monday night games coming up next. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. If you missed that last segment or need a quick reminder, I went over the morning and afternoon games from the Week 14 in the NFL. Let me give a quick rundown of who won and who lost. Carolina beat Minnesota. Indianapolis lost to Buffalo. Chicago beat Cincinnati. Green Bay beat Cleveland in overtime. San Francisco beat Houston. Kansas City beat Oakland. Then you got Detroit beating Tampa Bay. Let's see. Dallas beat New York, as in the Giants. The Cardinals beat the Tennessee Titans. Denver beat the Jets. LA, the Chargers, they beat the Redskins. Let's see. Yeah, Jacksonville beat Seattle. And I forgot to do one game in that last segment, and that was probably the most important game of the weekend. That was the Philadelphia Eagles and Los Angeles Rams game. Philly won that one, 43-35. Carson Wentz completed 23 out of his 41 passes, 291 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, but is now out for the season because he tore his ACL. So you know what? Philly's season is pretty much over. They'll make the playoffs still. They'll probably finish as a top 2 seed and get that first round bye, but it's pretty much done after that because I'm sure they're going to have to play a team like Seattle, Carolina, or even Green Bay, and possibly even Dallas if Dallas is able to win out with Ezekiel Elliott coming back in a couple of weeks. But yeah, Philly's done. I mean, they were, and I say done because obviously, like I said, they're still making the playoffs and they're still going to play in the divisional game, but in the divisional round game. But I mean, this team was pretty much NFC Championship or bust, and even like they probably had the goal of making it to the Super Bowl, given how well they've been playing. And now with Wentz not out there, I understand Nick Foles isn't like too bad. Well, actually, no. I mean, Nick Foles had that 1 year with Philly where he threw for 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and then he left, got that big contract, and pretty much turned into Matt Flynn. So, I mean, I really can't trust Nick Foles right now. So we're gonna see how it all goes. But J.J. in that game against the Rams, he had 15 carries, 78 yards. Torrey Smith had 6 receptions for 100 yards. As for the Rams, Jared Goff, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. Todd Gurley, 13 carries, 96 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also had 3 receptions for 39 yards. Cooper Kupp, 5 receptions, 118 yards, 1 touchdown. Sammy Watkins, 3 receptions, 21 yards, and a touchdown. But yeah, once again, Philly's going to be without Carson Wentz for the rest of the year, and like I said, that pretty much kills their season. Philly was doing so well, and I was talking about how if they were to beat the Rams, then yeah, they're for real, and the whole cupcake schedule doesn't really matter. But I mean, with Carson Wentz not out there, it's pretty much adios Philly. Good luck next year. All right, let's see. Let's talk about the Sunday Night Football game. We'll talk about the Monday Night Football game in the next segment or in the fourth one, whichever one we get to. But let's talk about, Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh won this one 39-38, and I was expecting more of like a hard-hitting, low-scoring type of AFC North football game, kind of like the one we got Monday night last week against with Steelers and Bengals. But we got the exact same opposite. We got, what is it? Like a Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady type of showdown where these guys used to pretty much just put up all kinds of points against each other. And I'm not comparing Joe Flacco or Ben Roethlisberger to Tom Brady or Peyton Manning by any way. I'm just trying to say it was a shootout, so don't go saying I'm saying these guys are pretty much comparable, those two. But let's see. Box score, we got Joe Flacco, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Alex Collins, 18 carries, 120 yards, 1 touchdown. Mike Wallace, 3 receptions for 72 yards, no touchdowns. Chris Moore, 3 receptions, 48 yards, and a touchdown. As for Pittsburgh, you had Ben Roethlisberger completed 44 out of 66 passes. The guy threw the ball 66 times. 506 yards, 2 touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell, 13 carries, 48 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 9 receptions for 77 yards and a touchdown. And Antonio Brown, another huge game. Has a real good chance at winning MVP, I think, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. But he had 11 receptions, 213 yards, no touchdowns. Jesse James had 10 carries, 97 yards for no touchdowns either. Let's get into the scoring summary right here. We got first quarter comes. Le'Veon Bell catches a 20-yard touchdown pass from Ben Roethlisberger, which makes it 7-0. Second quarter comes. Le'Veon Bell, 1-yard touchdown rush, makes it 14-0. Then Chris Moore catches that 30-yard touchdown pass from Joe Flacco. That makes it 14-7 Pittsburgh still. Chris Boswell kicks a field goal, 17-7. Alex Collins, 18-yard touchdown run, makes it 17-14. Then you got Chris Boswell who kicks another field goal right before the half ends, makes it 20-14. Justin Tucker comes out in the third quarter, kicks a field goal, makes it 20-17 Pittsburgh still. Buck Allen then comes after that. Runs in for a touchdown, 24-20 Baltimore now. And then Patrick Ricard, 6-yard touchdown pass from Joe Flacco, which made it 31-20. Baltimore up. Fourth quarter comes. Baltimore really had no answer for Pittsburgh's offense. You had Chris Boswell, 24-yard field goal, which makes it 31-23 Baltimore still. Roosevelt Nix catches a 1-yard touchdown pass from Ben Roethlisberger, which makes it 31-29. Pittsburgh failed to get the 2-point conversion right there. Then you got Buck Allen with a 9-yard touchdown run, pretty much opened up the gap a little bit. 38-29 Baltimore, and then Pittsburgh pretty much took over after that. Le'Veon Bell, 11-yard touchdown run, which made it 38-36, and then with 42 seconds left, Chris Boswell kicked a 46-yard field goal to win the game, which made it 39-38. And now for these two teams, I mean, Pittsburgh with New England losing, and like I said, we'll talk about that Monday night game between the Dolphins and New England in the next segment, or either in the fourth one, depends on when I want to talk about the NBA. Actually, I'll probably do NBA next segment just so I can split it up, But yeah, with Baltimore or Pittsburgh winning and New England losing, now Pittsburgh has sole possession of that number 1 seed in the AFC, and that's exactly what they needed going into the game next week against the Patriots, especially at home for Pittsburgh. Because now if they beat the Patriots next week, it's pretty much all but done. And I want to talk, after I talk about the Patriots and Dolphins game, I'll pretty much talk more about the Patriots and Steelers as far as how comparable they are, who's the better team, because I feel like without talking about the Patriots' performance from last night, you're really not going to get the full effect of how much better the Steelers are than the Patriots right now. But like I said, right now the Steelers are in a good spot. Let me see who they got coming up. They got the Patriots obviously next week. That's going to be their big game. Then you got the Texans after that and the Browns. So I mean, if the Steelers beat the Patriots, this team is going 14-2, going to lock up the number 1 seed in the AFC, and probably going to end up playing a team like Tennessee, possibly Jacksonville, or a team from the AFC West, because I'm not too sure. I mean, other than Baltimore, I don't really think any of those teams that are going to make that 6th seed in the wild card are going to be able to pull out a wild card win in the first week of playoffs. So, yeah, you're probably going to see them playing one of those 3 teams, but yeah, Steelers got it pretty good right now. Antonio Brown, talking about him a little bit. He's got a good chance of winning MVP, because next week if they play New England and they beat New England, and Antonio Brown, all he has to do is go for 6 catches over 100 yards and a touchdown like he's been doing. I know last week he didn't have a touchdown, but the guy did have 211 yards, I think it was. So if he has another big game, I mean, that's just going to strengthen his MVP hopes right there, because you got Tom Brady, who lost to the Dolphins yesterday. Tom Brady didn't play well in that game at all. And then you got Carson Wentz, who was also in the MVP mix, but he blew out his knee, so he's done. And then you had Russell Wilson, who was in the MVP mix, but he just lost to the Jaguars, and they're still trying to figure out a way to make the playoffs. And I highly doubt that the NFL is going to give the MVP to a guy who's gonna barely make the wild card, if that. And just pretty much between him and Tom Brady, I feel, unless I'm missing someone else. But I mean, if Antonio Brown goes off for a big game and they beat the Patriots, they're gonna finish with that number 1 seed. And if Antonio Brown just pretty much does work against the Houston Texans and Cleveland Browns, then give the guy the MVP. And if he were to get the MVP, he'd be the first wide receiver in the history of NFL to get it. And I think it's much deserved. The guy's been playing lights out so far this season, and even if teams are trying to double him, they really can't do too much against him. So we'll see how that all ends up. But right now, Pittsburgh is looking like the best team in the AFC, and it pretty much they are. There's really no argument for it right now. But let's talk about Baltimore real quick. All right, so yeah, they lost that game. Now they're 7-6. Let me see the standings real quick. Let me see. I think they're the 7th team in the AFC right now. Buffalo's currently got that last wild card spot. Both are 7-6 right now. Buffalo's 7-6. Baltimore 7-6. The Chargers are 7-6. Kansas City is 7-6. Oakland is 6-7, but they're done. Me and Miami, they're starting to creep up a little bit. They're 6-7, and they got Buffalo next week. So let's see. I mean, it's pretty much going to come down to the Chargers, Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, and in order for Miami to pretty much have a chance, they have to win out no matter what. So if they don't win out, they're done. But as for the Raiders, I mean, I'm counting them out because I'm not even sure that they could beat the Cowboys next week. Cowboys are playing well. Cowboys are favored in that one. I'm not sure if they could beat the Eagles, okay, because the Eagles, even with Nick Foles, I mean, the Raiders have just been disappointing, and the Eagles are going to figure out a way. I don't think they could beat the Chargers. So, I mean, they got a tough 3-game stretch head coming up, and they pretty, like I said, they're in the same boat as the Miami Dolphins. They pretty much have to win out if they want a chance at winning the wild card, unless somehow the Chargers were to drop a couple of games, and I'm sure Kansas City's going to drop a couple because it's just Kansas City, and I don't really trust them too much. But yeah, as far as Baltimore goes in that 6th wild card spot, I mean, they pretty much got to win out, and I'm sure that it'll be theirs because I don't think Buffalo's going to be able to sweep Miami, and I actually think Miami has a good chance of beating Buffalo twice because right now Buffalo's not playing like a good team, and they might have Nathan Peterman starting next week, and I feel if Nathan Peterman starts against Miami next week, that's going to bode well for a Miami win right there. And Kansas City and Miami play each other in 2 weeks. So, I mean, it's pretty much all going to work itself out. So we'll see how it all ends up, but it's going to be tough for Baltimore. I mean, they need some help. They need a bunch of teams around them to lose, but Baltimore pretty much needs to take care of business, beating the Browns, the Colts, and the Bengals for these next 3 games. So we'll see how it all ends up for them, but it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, like I said, that whole AFC wild card, that last spot is pretty much even the 5th spot too, because the Titans are probably going to end up with the 5th spot unless they just pretty much choke away their season. Let me see who the Titans got coming up. Let's see. It's got to be, they got the Jaguars, the Rams, and the 49ers. There's a good chance, you know what, that the Titans go 9-7 also, even maybe 8-8. San Francisco is actually, San Francisco's favored against the Titans at home this week. San Francisco being the team that's at home. And you know what? Yeah, I think that Tennessee has a good chance of going 8-8. They're probably going to blow the rest of their season. So you know what? Those 2 wildcard spots are pretty much going to be up for grabs. So we'll see who wants them. But man, that's just making me wonder. Think about how bad the AFC is this season. Because right now my top 3 teams in the AFC, or top 4, I guess. Yeah, I'll just go top 3. But it's obviously the Steelers at number 1. It'd be the Patriots at number 2. And then the Jags at number 3. And if I had to do a 4th and a 5th, I'd go Chargers at number 4. But I'm not even sure who I could put at number 5 right now because no one's really playing too well. And it's pretty much, like I said, it's going to, like the AFC Championship, it's most likely going to be Pittsburgh versus the Patriots. But for some reason, I got hope about the Chargers somehow doing something, even more so than the Jaguars. I know the Jaguars got the number 1 defense in the NFL, so that could take them pretty far. But there's just something about Phillip Rivers. Towards the end of his career, he's probably got 3 more years left. Something about Phillip Rivers going and losing to Tom Brady one more time in the AFC Championship. But we'll see how it all ends up. That's going to wrap it up for this segment. Next up, we're going to talk some NBA, and then for this last segment of the show, we're going to talk about Monday Night Football. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. If you missed that last segment or need a quick reminder, basically just talked about the Eagles and Rams game, talked about Carson Wentz pretty much being out for the rest of the season. Now he's blown out his knee. And pretty much you could say goodbye to the Eagles season right there too, because without him, they really have no chance of beating anyone in the NFC, I feel, at least in the playoffs, because they're going to end up playing a really good team from that in that divisional round. And we talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens, talked about how Antonio Brown is a serious MVP candidate, and why if the Steelers beat I'm drawing a blank, but if they beat the Patriots next week and Antonio has another big game and pretty much out finishes the rest of the season well, then he's going to win MVP, I feel. There's really no reason to not have him win MVP because, like I said, Carson Wentz, he really has no shot now that he blew out his knee. And you got Russell Wilson, who might not even make the wild card, and Tom Brady, who didn't play well at all last night against the Dolphins. And if they don't finish as the number 1 seed, then I really don't see how you give it to Brady over Antonio Brown. So we just got to wait and see. Hopefully we end up doing the first MVP given to a wide receiver. That'd be, like they said, that'll be the first time in NFL history. And as far as the Ravens go right now, they're 7-6. Currently the seventh best team in the AFC as far as seeding goes. And right now Buffalo has that last wild card spot at number 6 because they own the tiebreaker over Baltimore. But that whole thing is going to switch up. Right now Tennessee's got the 5th spot, but I think they're going to go finish the season 8-8, lose their next 3 games. So pretty much anything could happen. But let's talk some NBA. So you had Boston going into Chicago, no Kyrie Irving, no Markieff Morris, and Chicago won that one. I did give the Celtics their worst loss of the season. Chicago won that one, 108-85. Al Horford had 15 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 6 of 14 in that game, didn't make a 3. Jason Tatum, only 4 points, shot 1 of 7, 0 of 4 from the 3-point line, 10 rebounds. Let's see, Marcus Smart, 13 points, 4 assists, shot 5 of 12, 3 of 6 from the 3-point line. Jaylen Brown had pretty much identical numbers right here, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 5 of 12 shooting, 3 of 7 from the 3-point line. As for the Bulls, you had Nikolai Mirotic, 24 points, 8 rebounds, shot 9 of 14, 3 of 7 from the 3-point line. Chris Dunn, 12 points, shot 6 of 14, 0 of 4 from the 3-point line, 4 rebounds. Justin Holiday, 8 points, 7 rebounds, shot 3 of 10. And Bobby Portis off the bench had 23 points, 4 rebounds. He shot 10 of 15 and 3 of 3 from the three-point line in only 23 minutes. With that loss for Boston right there, they're now 23-6, but still 3 games ahead of the Cavs, so I wouldn't worry too much if I was them. Then you have the Houston Rockets. They faced off with the Pelicans in Houston. Houston won that one, 130-123. DeMarcus Cousins, 24 points, 14 rebounds, shot 8 of 17, 2 of 3 from the three-point line. Drew Holiday, 37 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 16 of 21 shooting, 4 of 7 from the three-point line. Rajon Rondo had a triple-double, 13 points, 12 rebounds, 12 assists, shot 5 of 12, 3 of 5 from the three-point line. And Etuan Moore had another big game. This guy's been having a solid season so far. He had 36 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 15 of 20 for the game, and 6 of 8 from the three-point line. As for the Houston Rockets, you had James Harden, 26 points, 17 assists, 8 of 16 shooting, 4 of 10 from the three-point line. Chris Paul, 20 points, 6 assists, 9 rebounds, 3 of 9 from the three-point line, and shot 8 of 16 overall for the game. Then you had Clint Capella, who had a big game right here, 28 points, 8 rebounds, shot 13 of 14 in this game. And like I said, just the Rockets came out with the win in this one, 130-123. Oh, Eric Gordon also had 27 points, 2 rebounds, shot 9 of 12, and 5 of 6 from the three-point line in that one. Let's see, the Miami Heat went into Memphis and beat up on the Grizzlies, beat them by 25, 107-82. Let's see, who did get in the Heat? Goran Dragic had 19 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 7 of 12, 1 of 3 from the three-point line. Dion Waiters, only 10 points, shot 4 of 5, also had 4 assists. Kelly Olynyk, not too much of a good game from him. I mean, he came in for 18 minutes, started the game, had 5 points, 1 assist, 3 rebounds, shot 1 of 3 in the game, but all those shots were from the three-point line. And then you had Josh Richardson James Johnson with 11 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, and 4 of 7 from the field. Let's see, you had Marc Gasol from Memphis, 19 points, 6 rebounds, shot 5 of 14 from the field, 2 of 5 from the three-point line. Tyreek Evans hasn't been playing well since he's been starting. He's better off the bench, and I'm sure he believes that too. He had 11 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 5 of 17, 1 of 7 from the three-point line. And I can't remember which Harrison twin is on the Grizzlies. I think it's Andrew Harrison, I think. He had 16 points, 4 assists, had 1 rebound, shot 5 of 6, and 2 of 2 from the three-point line in 30 minutes in the game. As for Charlotte, they went into OKC, and like most teams do, they beat OKC. Charlotte won that one 116-103. Marvin Williams, 18 points, 7 rebounds, shot 5 of 8, 4 of 5 from the three-point line. Michael Gilchrist had 17 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He shot 8 of 9 from the three-point line. Dwight Howard, 23 points, 7 rebounds, shot 9 of 13. Then you had Kemba Walker with 19 points, 3 rebounds, 9 assists. He shot 6 of 13. As for the Thunder, Carmelo Anthony, only 11 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 of 12 shooting. Then you had Paul George, 20 points, shot 7 of 14, 2 of 4 from the three-point line, 5 rebounds. Let's see, Russell Westbrook. Man, I gotta say Wessel. It's Russell Westbrook. 30 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 10 of 22 shooting, 1 of 2 from the three-point line. And, of course, I mean, the Thunder are just such a bad team to me. Like, I think it's a given they're going to be trading Paul George or Melo, I think, by the trade deadline, because this team ain't making the playoffs, I guess. I mean, unless they somehow figure out some little magical game plan to where it works for all three of those guys, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're a terrible team so far this season. I mean, I know I talk about the Thunder a lot and pretty much talk about how bad they are, but I mean, they're not even fixing anything. They haven't made any switches. It's pretty much the same thing every single game. I mean, they don't try and switch up the game plan or anything like that. Carmelo's going to go take his 12 to 20 shots, probably going to hit 5 of them, maybe 7 if he's on a good day. Then you got Paul George, who's pretty much been a shell of himself this year, and Russell Westbrook doing what he does, but I mean, that's not really going to work when you got Paul George and Carmelo Anthony on the same team too. So I think they need to trade Paul George before the trade deadline, try and figure something out to where they can make playoffs and actually make some noise, because right now, I've been saying it over and over, they're going to get swept by the Warriors if they see the Warriors in the playoffs. But as for speaking of the Warriors, they beat the Portland Trailblazers in Oakland yesterday. They won 111-104. CJ McCollum had 21 points, 3 rebounds, shot 8 of 14. Damian Lillard, 39 points, 4 rebounds, shot 12 of 28, 5 of 13 from the three-point line. Evan Turner only had 10 points in that one, 4 assists, shot 3 of 8. Let's see, for the Warriors, you had Jordan Bell, who started in this one, 11 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 of 6 from the field. Kevin Durant, 28 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 11 of 21 for that game, 2 of 4 from the three-point line. And Klay Thompson had 24 points, shot 9 of 21, 4 of 10 from the three-point line, also had 3 rebounds and 3 assists to go with that one. And as for this next game, we had the LA Clippers beating the Toronto Raptors in LA. LA won that one, 96-91. Serge Ibaka had 17 points, 6 rebounds, shot 7 of 17. Kyle Lowry only 14 points in this one, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. Not a good game from him. Shot 4 of 13. And 0 of 8 from the three-point line. That looks like one of his playoff stat lines right there. DeMar DeRozan, 17 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. Shot 5 of 13 in that game. Let's see, DeAndre Jordan, 14 points, 17 rebounds, shot 6 of 9. Austin Rivers had 15 points, 3 assists, 6 of 14 shooting, 3 of 8 from the field. And Lou Williams off the bench had 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 6 of 18. And Montrezl Harrell had another big game, 17 points, 4 rebounds, shot 6 of 9 in only 16 minutes of play. And that was actually the last game of for Monday night. Let's look into the games today. I'll make my predictions so I can talk about how wrong I was tomorrow. You got the Hawks heading into Cleveland. I got Cleveland in that one. Obviously, there's really nothing to say about that game. LeBron's probably going to go for a triple-double and just beat up on the Hawks like he's always done his entire career. Then you got the Denver Nuggets heading into Detroit, facing off with the Pistons. The Pistons have pretty much been on a bit of a slide these last couple of games. Let me see if I can pick up their last few games right here. They lost to the Celtics, lost to the Warriors, lost to the Bucks, lost to the Spurs, lost to the Sixers, lost to the Wizards. Jeez Louise, that's 3, 4, 5. That's 6 games in a row right there that they've lost. And I'm not even sure if they're going to beat the Nuggets, but the Nuggets really haven't even looked that good so far this season too. Let's see. I mean, is there really... I'm gonna go with the Pistons beating the Nuggets, I guess. They're gonna break that streak, I think. I mean, I'm not even confident at all about that pick. Then we got the Lakers heading into New York, facing off with the Knicks. I got the Knicks in this one. Porzingis is gonna be too much for that team. You got the Wizards facing off with the Nets. Jahlil Okafor should be playing this game, I think. I'm going to go with the Wizards in this one just because it's the Nets. Nets aren't a good team yet. Then you got the Spurs heading into Dallas. Obviously, I got the Spurs in that one. Kawhi Leonard's going to be back tonight. And it's going to be interesting to see how now we're going to see how the Spurs how they integrate Kawhi Leonard now that LaMarcus Aldridge is playing well, because if you noticed, pretty much the last few years, ever since he signed from Portland into San Antonio, the guy just hasn't played well, and then this year's been his best year by far, and we're only maybe about 30 games into the season. We're already saying that this is his best year. So now we're going to see pretty much if his production's going to go down or if it's going to stay the same or even get better with Kawhi Leonard back in, because Kawhi Leonard's going to have to go out and get his because he is the best player on that team. So pretty much don't forget that. But you have the Philadelphia 76ers heading into Minnesota. Did the Sixers play yesterday? I don't think they did. I don't remember calling their game, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't play yesterday, so that means Joel Embiid's going to be playing since it's not a back-to-back. I got the Philadelphia 76ers beating the Timberwolves tonight. This one's going to be on ESPN in Minnesota. And Minnesota, the team that they got, they should be a much better team than what they are, but for some reason they're just really inconsistent. I think right now, let me see what they are in the West. They're currently the number 4 team in the West. They're 16-11. Philly is currently... Dang, Philly fell out of the top 8 of the East. I didn't even realize that. But let's see. Yeah, Philly's 13-13 now. I still got Philly winning because I just don't trust the Timberwolves. I mean, if every time I pick them, they always let me down. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Sixers in this one. And then you got probably the worst game of the night. Probably you got the Suns heading into Sacramento, facing off with the Kings. I'm gonna go with the Kings, and I don't even know I need a coin to flip because I mean both of these teams are pretty bad. Devin Booker's still out, I believe, and Willie Cauley-Stein's not playing in this one. But I think oh man, this is a tough one. I think I'm gonna go with the Kings, pretty much eeny meeny miny mo type of game right here. I'm gonna go with the Kings. I think they're gonna be able to pull it out. Probably don't really trust them too much, but I mean the Suns really aren't a good team either, and the Kings are at home, so that's pretty much the only basis I got for picking the Kings. Both of these teams are bad. But just to round it back out, I got the Cavs beating the Hawks, got the Pistons beating the Nuggets, the Knicks beating the Lakers, the Wizards beating the Nets, the Spurs beating the Mavericks, the Sixers beating the Timberwolves, and the Kings beating the Suns. let's see, what do we got going on in the Eastern Conference standings right now? We got Boston at number 1, then you got Cleveland at 2, who's 3 games back. Toronto at number 3, who's 4 games back. Milwaukee at 4, they're 6 games back at number 1. Indiana, who's been a really good team so far, they're 16-11, 6 games back of that number 1 spot. So number 1 spot's going to come down to Boston and Cleveland. Toronto's not going to catch up. They'll finish a top 14, but that's it. Then you got Washington at 6, 14-12. Detroit at number 7, 14-12, and the New York Knicks at 13-13. But they're in a 3-way tie with the Heat and Sixers, but right now I guess the Knicks own that tiebreaker. As for the West, you got the Houston Rockets at 21-4, number 1. The Golden State Warriors 22-6, half game back at Houston. At number 3, you got the Spurs 19-8 with Kawhi coming back tonight. Then you got the Minnesota Timberwolves at number 4, 16-11. The Denver Nuggets at 5, 14-12. The Pelicans at number 6, 14-14. The Portland Trailblazers at number 7, 13-13. And then the Utah Jazz at 13-14 at the number 8 spot. Then right under the Jazz, you got the Oklahoma City Thunder at 12-14. I'd love for the Thunder to make the 8th seed and just get swept by the Warriors or Houston, because really, Thunder ain't really got no chance at all this season. But that's actually going to wrap it up for this segment. Next up, we're going to be talking some Monday Night Football between the Patriots and Dolphins, and we'll pretty much talk about anything else going on in sports. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Podcast. I'll let this intro play out a little bit, but last segment we talked about the NBA games for Monday night, and I made my picks for the games tonight. Let me see if I could remake my picks right now just to remind everyone. Let's see. I got the Cavs beating the Hawks. I got the Pistons beating the Nuggets. I got the Knicks beating the Lakers. The Wizards beating the Nets. The Spurs beating the Mavericks. The Sixers beating the Timberwolves, and the Kings beating the Suns. But I'm not confident in that pick at all. But now we're going to talk some Monday Night Football, and what would you look at that? The Miami Dolphins finally won a primetime game. I think before last night, they lost 8 out of their last 9 primetime games. So it's pretty crazy to see them beat the Patriots and play as well as they did yesterday. But the Dolphins won 27-20. And really, New England just didn't play well at all for that entire game. Tom Brady completed 24 out of his 43 passes, 233 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Deion Lewis didn't have a good game running the ball, only 5 carries for 17 yards. Rex Burkhead had 5 carries for 8 yards and a touchdown. Danny Amendola had 6 receptions for 76 yards. Deion Lewis, 5 receptions for 50 yards. Rex Burkhead, 5 receptions for 45 yards. Brandon Cooks was shut down for that entire game. Pretty much did whatever Xavier Howard told him to do. But Brandon Cooks did have 1 catch for 38 yards for that entire game. And let's see, for the Miami Dolphins, you had Jay Cutler, probably the best game he's played as a Dolphin this year, and probably the best game he's played in a while. Like, I'm talking about, years. But Jay Cutler had 25 completions out of 38 attempts, 263 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Then you had Kenyon Drake, 25 carries, 114 yards, also had 5 receptions for 79 yards. Let's see, Jarvis Landry, 8 receptions for 46 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jakeem Grant, dude's only 5'8", and he pretty much hopped over Malcolm Butler and mossed him for a touchdown. Like I said, the Patriots yesterday just had no... Actually, we'll talk about the game a little bit. Let me get all the stats. But Jakeem Grant, 2 receptions, 42 yards and a touchdown. Could have had 2 touchdowns if he wouldn't have dropped a deep ball in the last part of the game. And Devontae Parker had 4 receptions for 40 yards. But let's get in the scoring summary for this game. You had, let's see, first quarter, Cody Parkey kicks a 30-yard field goal, makes it 3-0, then comes back later on in the first with another field goal, which makes it 6-0. Second quarter comes, Rex Burkhead runs the ball in for a 3-yard touchdown, makes it 7-6 New England. Later on in the quarter, you have Jarvis Landry catching a 5-yard touchdown pass from Jay Cutler, which makes it 13-7. Steven Gostkowski kicks a 46-yard field goal right before the half is over, 13-10 Miami. Jakeem Grant in the third quarter, 25-yard touchdown pass from Jay Cutler makes it 20-10 Miami. Then with 4 minutes left in the third, you have Jarvis Landry catching a 4-yard touchdown pass from Jay Cutler, which makes it 27-10. James White in the fourth quarter, 3-yard touchdown pass from Tom Brady, makes it 27-17 Miami still. And then Steven Gostkowski kicks a 33-yard field goal with 53 seconds left, which makes it 27-20. And New England goes for the onside kick, but Miami recovered that one, and they ended up winning the game. This game, honestly, I'm not even going to lie, okay? Going into this game, I thought Miami actually had a decent chance at winning it. Okay, I thought it was going to be close. I know when I was making my picks on the football podcast yesterday, I picked New England, but in my heart, I wanted to go with Miami because I felt that there's just some, like, watching the Dolphins and something like that, you always just have, like, you pretty much always know how each game is going to turn out. You pretty much know, okay, this team's either going to play well or they're just going to get blown out. Like this year on their road games, they've gotten blown out in every single one. Pretty much never been any game that they played on the road, okay? But when they're at home, for some reason, I don't know what it is. I mean, I guess obviously it's just playing in front of your fans, but I mean, just given how this team's played all season with one of the worst offenses in the league, I mean, now that offense is starting to look a whole lot better than what it was looking like. But yeah, at home for some reason, they just play a whole lot better. And I mean, I don't want to like pretty much over exaggerate or anything like that, but I mean, the Dolphins dominated that game yesterday. Like, I understand the score was 27-17, but at one point that game was 27-10. I mean, Miami was really never like losing that game except for that one touchdown with Rex Burkhead, which made it 7-6. But Miami took the lead right after that, and they pretty much had the lead for the rest of the game. I mean, Tom Brady yesterday, the guy doesn't play well when he's got people on his face. He can't handle the pressure, and that's exactly what Miami was doing yesterday. You had Jordan Phillips with a sack, and Ndamukong Suh, who was a beast yesterday, he had a sack, and I think that was the only two players right there with sacks. But either way, for the rest of the game, you had Miami's defensive line constantly in Brady's face. Then you had Brandon Cooks, who couldn't do a thing against Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard pretty much baited Brady into throwing those two deep balls to Cooks and picked them both off. And then let's see who else played well. I mean, you got guys like Alteron Werner, who's been terrible in the secondary for Miami this year. And then he almost has an interception when I think it was Brady trying to throw to Amendola on third down. I think it was, but yeah. And then you got Jay Cutler on the offensive end. Didn't throw any interceptions. Actually looked like pretty much what Jay Cutler played yesterday, how every Miami fan thought he'd play for this season, and when the offseason came and they signed him, okay? Tannehill went down, they brought in Cutler. I was thinking, oh, that's Adam Gase's guy right there, had his best game under Gase, so he's obviously going to play really well this season, and he really hasn't been able to put it together, but yesterday played extremely well. It was just crazy how they did. And then you got Kenyon Drake. New England had no answer for him, whether it was him being lined up in the backfield or lined up in a wide receiver spot on the outside, because I mean, whenever you have Drake lined up on the outside, you're going to have a linebacker on him. And Miami pretty much took advantage of that. And like I said, running the ball, he was playing well. You got Jarvis Landry, who always shows up for big games, had two big touchdowns right there, nonetheless. But I mean, yeah, just an overall great game for Miami. Now, let me talk about the Patriots for a little bit, though. Yeah, so the Patriots in this game, I mean, they didn't complete a third down in this game. Yeah, for the entire game. That was the first time they didn't complete a third down since 1991. I think they went 0 of 11 or 0 of 10 on third down in this game. And it's like you were waiting for the Patriots to come back because it's the Patriots and obviously it's the Dolphins. I mean, you really don't expect the Dolphins to hold too many leads against the Patriots, and you always expect the Patriots to do well because they pretty much own that division. But, I mean, it just really never happened. Like I said, every third down comes, and especially in the fourth quarter, you're thinking, oh, they're going to get their first down right here on this third down, and they're going to start driving, and it's going to work out well for them. And it just simply was not happening for them. I haven't seen Miami pretty much put this complete of a game together, and wow, this was a good special teams game, it was a good defensive game, and it was a good offensive game. It was just a great game all around, and really the Patriots had no answer for it. And if I'm the Patriots, I'm a little bit nervous about going into Pittsburgh next week because, I mean, I got Pittsburgh in that one just based off of how the Patriots played. When you got Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell putting up at least 100 yards from scrimmage every game, and then you got Ben Roethlisberger out here throwing for 500 yards against this Baltimore defense, how do you expect to stop that offense when you can't even stop Jay Cutler? I mean, Jay Cutler pretty much had his way against his defense and pretty much it was just crazy. I mean, I can't believe the Dolphins played this well. But yeah, like I said, going back to the Patriots, I mean, they only ran the ball 10 times total, and I understand that they were playing from behind for most of the game, but I mean, in the first half, they really didn't choose to run the ball too much. I mean, the first half ended 10-13, and Deion Lewis only had a couple of carries, I think, right there. And Rex Burkhead, same. He only gets the ball really to run the ball in the red zone. But, I mean, once the second half came, it was pretty much they tried getting away from their game plan, I guess, New England. It was weird. Like, not only did Miami just outplay New England, Miami outcoached New England. Everything that you saw Miami do in the first game that they played where New England won 35-17, you saw none of that in this game. You saw a completely different offense, all right, a completely different defense. Pretty much they were ready for whatever New England had to throw at them, and that's exactly why New England couldn't convert on third down. But yeah, it was just a crazy game overall. No one expected it. It honestly might be the throwback uniforms for Miami. They do not lose when they put the throwbacks on. Miami needs to figure out this whole Nike thing, finish out the years that they have to wear these new uniforms, and then once that's over, go back to the throwbacks, and they will never lose a game, because so far, I think they've won the throwbacks about 5 times in the last 3 years, I think it is, and they haven't lost either of those games. So it's got to be the throwbacks or something. There's just something about it. Maybe they feel like they're the old Miami Dolphins. But yeah, just a great game overall from the Dolphins. Extremely poor game from the Patriots. Like I said, Brandon Cooks couldn't do anything. Danny Amendola, really, he had 7 catches, I think I said, or 5. Can't remember which one it was exactly, but let me double check it right here. But like I said, I mean, he pretty much didn't do anything until the second half. Yeah, Danny Amendola actually had 6 catches for 76 yards, but like I said, just didn't do anything for it till the second half. So I mean, New England just was never in that game to begin with. But yeah, like I said, going forward, I mean, New England pretty much has to beat Pittsburgh, or they're going to finish as the number 2 seed in the AFC. Let me see who New England has going forward. New England's got the Steelers, the Bills, and then the Jets. So I mean, yeah, this Pittsburgh game is going to be their toughest one yet. And like I said, if Pittsburgh wins that one, then pretty much New England can get ready as the number 2 seed. They're going to beat Buffalo, and they're going to beat the Jets. So I mean, yeah, it's pretty much going to come down to the Steelers game. If they win, then they're number 1. If they don't, then they're going to stick to number 2. But as for the Dolphins right now, they're 7-6. They got the Bills twice and the Chiefs. They got the Bills, then the Chiefs, then the Bills. Next week they're playing the Bills in Buffalo, but if Nathan Peterman starts that game, then I think Miami's chances of winning that game are pretty good. Miami just needs to figure out a way in order to bring this little momentum that they had against New England on Monday night and the game plan that they had. They pretty much need to translate that to the games coming up after this, because they're 6-7 right now. Baltimore and Buffalo are currently 7-6. So if they beat Buffalo, obviously math tells me that the Bills will be 7-7 and the Dolphins will be 7-7. And I think the Ravens, who do they got? I was just talking about this earlier. The Ravens got I got to double check this again, man. I got a bad memory. But, yeah, the Ravens being 7-6, I mean, there's a chance that they drop a game. If they don't drop a game and win out, obviously the Ravens are in. But, I mean, Miami's got so the Ravens got the Browns and the Colts and then the Bengals, all right? So, I mean, I don't really see the Ravens dropping a game unless it's to the Bengals. I mean, maybe the Browns will surprise everyone and pull out a win, but I'm done trying to talk them up and trying to predict them for a win. But, yeah, it's pretty much Miami. If they win out, all they got to worry about is the Ravens, because if they win out, that means they beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs right now are 7-6. So I mean, Miami will win the tiebreaker against them. They'd have the same record, and Miami's got to sweep Buffalo. So if they sweep Buffalo, Buffalo moves to 7-9, I think it is. Let me see right here. Yeah, Buffalo would move to 7-9 or 7. Yeah, they'll move to 7-9 because they're not beating the Patriots. So, yeah, if Miami sweeps Buffalo, that puts Buffalo at 7-9. Like I said, the Chiefs and Dolphins will have the same record. I think the Raiders are going to lose another game, so that'll put them at 8 losses. And then the Chargers are going to win their division. So, really, Miami just has to worry about the Ravens right now. But none of this works if Miami doesn't win out. So, they got to do that first and foremost. And you know what? That number 5 spot in the AFC, for that wild card spot, I mean, that might be up for grabs too, because Tennessee's got the Niners, the 49ers, the Rams, and the Jaguars. They're obviously losing to the Rams and Jaguars for sure. So they got to pick up this win against the 49ers or else their season's done too. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this ends up. But, I mean, right now, Miami's got a good chance. Buffalo's got a good chance. Baltimore's got a good chance. The Raiders are done, according to me. The Chiefs, I think they're going to lose a couple of games, and the Chargers are going to win their division. And like I said, the Titans, you can't really tell with them. They've been playing really bad. So we'll see how it all ends up. But before we finish out this show, let's talk about the Yankees and Giancarlo Stanton. All right, so obviously, we'll never know for sure unless the MLB does some type of investigation. But you're telling me Starlin Castro and two prospects who aren't even top prospects in the Yankees farm system is what it takes to get Giancarlo Stanton? Really? Is that what you're really telling me now, Derek Jeter? Really? That's all it takes for Giancarlo Stanton? I don't know. Seems a little bit fishy to me that they gave him up for next to nothing to the Yankees, all right? It just really seems a little bit weird to me in that, he didn't want to go to the Giants because he's a Dodgers fan. Really? Is that what we're really saying right now? But now, I mean, with this trade, I mean, what happens to Bryce Harper next year? I mean, it was thought, the guy's going to go to the Yankees, but with Stanton out there, I mean, how are they going to afford to pay his contract because they're eating up most of that salary? You're not going to be able to pay for Bryce Harper. So Bryce Harper, I think he's going to end up with the Cubs or the Red Sox, but only time will tell, and we got a whole year to wait for that one. But, I mean, now this pretty much... This heats up the rivalry a little bit between the Red Sox and the Yankees because now the Yankees are building up like they're the evil empire again. They're starting to pick up all the big name players. They got Aaron Boone, who I still don't understand why they hired him as their manager. I mean, are you really telling me that you fired Joe Girardi so you could hire Aaron Boone? Are you serious? You're really telling me that Aaron Boone is a better, like the Yankees think that Aaron Boone is a better manager than Joe Girardi? Is that really what they're telling us right now? All right, because Joe Girardi took the Yankees to the ALCS last year. All right. And I understand that they got Giancarlo Stanton right now, but I mean, baseball is baseball. You can't really predict anything when it comes to this sport. And you're really going to tell me that Aaron Boone is going to be able to get the Yankees to the ALCS? I know right now, given the team that they have, I mean, it looks a whole lot easier, and they might even make it to the World Series. Yankees right now are, as much as it pains me to say, they are the best team in the MLB right now, just given that they got Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez, and Stanton right there in that little 3, 4, 5, whatever, however they want to put them in the lineup. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what the Red Sox do too. They're going to be picking up JD Martinez, looks like, but that's not going to be enough to beat the Yankees, and you got to hope David Price is able to stay healthy. So right now, I mean, it looks like the Yankees got control over that AL East, and right now it looks like they got control of the MLB, but I mean, you got a team like Houston who just won the World Series, so we'll see how it is. And I know you got the Dodgers, who are a good team, but the Dodgers tend to choke when it comes to the big time. So I mean, we'll see. The winner of the World Series winner this year is probably going to come out of the AL if I have to make an early pick right now. But yeah, it's just kind of fishy to me how the Yankees got Stanton for nothing. But I mean, I'm just a fan, so what do I know? But that's actually going to wrap it up for today's podcast. Thanks for listening. We talked about the Week 14 games from Sunday, talked about Sunday Night Football, talked about Philly losing Wentz, then we talked about the NBA games, made my picks for tonight, and we talked about the Dolphins beating the Patriots, their wild card hopes, and what the Patriots have to do next in order to pick up that 1 seed in the AFC. And if you didn't hear right now, or need a quick reminder, we talked about how it's a little fishy that Stanton ended up on the Yankees for next to nothing, but I don't know. I could just watch. So that's going to wrap it up for the podcast. This is the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Tapia, and we'll be back tomorrow. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.